So this ties into the whole 100-day nonsense, but the biggest obstacle, hurdle, challenge facing the Congress this week, of course, is the government runs out of money on Friday. Okay, 2 days to go. By the way, they don't seem to be doing a hell of a lot about it. But at any rate, we're used to this brinksmanship by now. Every time this deadline comes up, it's always the 11th plus hour when they finally do something. So the government runs out of money on Friday, and everybody understands that. And nobody wants the government shut down. You know, Newt Gingrich did it and lost his ass. And John Boehner did it and lost his ass, right? So nobody wants to do that. Paul Ryan doesn't want it. Mitch McConnell doesn't want it. Donald Trump, we're not so sure. But at any rate, in the Congress, Democrats and Republicans want to avoid this. Democrats certainly do, even though it would be worse for Republicans than for Democrats. So they were all working along and coming up with a plan to keep the government running for another 3, 4, 5 months, whatever. And then suddenly Donald Trump says, by the way, I want some money for the wall in that little agreement. I want $2 billion to build my wall. And suddenly all the negotiations go to hell in a handbasket because not just Democrats don't want to pay that price for the wall. Remember, Mexico was supposed to pay for it. But there are a lot of Republicans who don't either. The Republicans on the border states, right on the front lines where the wall would be built, don't want the wall because they know that most of that property is private property, even a big Indian reservation, and they'd have to steal land using eminent domain from property owners. It would be hugely unpopular. So members of Congress just started raising hell about that. And yesterday, they officially told Donald Trump, there ain't going to be any money in that wall for the wall in this budget agreement. Now, Sean Spicer, again, down at the White House, denial. Spicer at the briefing says, nope, this doesn't represent any change in policy at all.
We've made our priorities very clear as we continue to negotiate, and I think nothing has changed on the president's priorities.
And then Donald Trump, he was signing an executive order, a BS executive order, by the way, does nothing on agriculture with the new Secretary of Agriculture sitting by his side, Sonny Perdue. And Donald Trump, in response to a reporter's question about the wall, insists no change.
The wall's going to get built, and the wall is going to stop drugs, and it's going to stop a lot of people from coming in that shouldn't be here, and it's going to have a huge effect on human trafficking, which is a tremendous problem in this world, a problem that nobody talks about.
He's just making it up. Total making it up. Yeah. And then he said... Yeah.
If all of a sudden he's grown a heart about something like human trafficking, which is, look, an issue, okay? But, this is not why he wants to build the wall.
By the way, he did say that human trafficking is today more serious than it has ever been in the history of humankind. Ali Velshi on MSNBC came right out of that little comment, that little thing from the Oval Office, and said, "Well, I guess human trafficking is worse than it's ever been, unless you talk about the slavery traffic, back in the 1800s or the 1700s. I mean, he makes these flat-out statements that are just, again, wrong.
By the way, yesterday, Mexico's foreign minister said that Mexico considers the construction of a border wall, quote, a hostile act, end quote, and they will not contribute in any way.
Now, notice the one thing. So Donald Trump, in that little exchange with reporters, we just heard him, right? Yeah, the wall's going to get built. The wall's going to get built. He said the wall's going to get built in his first term, in fact. And he also said they're already starting to think about it. Let me tell you something. The one thing he did not say, I hope you noticed, I did. He did not say Mexico's going to pay for it. He has dropped that, totally dropped it. And so far, we have seen for this wall, no plan, no route, right? They haven't said it's exactly where the wall is going to be built, right? So there's no plan. There's no design for the wall. There's no permission by the property owners yet to build the wall. Here's what I've come to the conclusion. Listening to him yesterday, let me tell you, Mark, save the tape. This wall will never be built. This wall will never be built because Mexico will never pay for it. And this Congress, as crazy as it is not dumb enough to pay for that wall. And the American people will never support paying for it.
I watch these shows and the pundits in the morning. They don't know what they're talking about.
Well, here's a pundit in the morning that does know what he's talking about. This wall is not going to be built.